Welcome to Pine Thicket Philosophies, the non-podcast podcast where we do everything the podcast experts tell you not to do. If you are looking for a finely polished and professional podcast crew, well, folks, we ain't it. But if you want to virtually join a group of old outdoorsmen from southern Appalachia as we sit around the fire and talk about any one of our favorite topics, we'll pour a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and enjoy. All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So I believe this will be about episode 10 of the Pine Thicket Philosophy, and I have recruited some help. I have Shannon in tonight, and we are going to do two separate podcasts tonight that we're going to record. The first one is going to be his and her travel tips. She's going to discuss one, and I'm going to discuss one. And by the way, she is looking, apparently she is not prepared for this.
I just thought we were doing travel tips, but I can take notes as we go, so it's not a problem.
Okay. Well,
I just don't have a pencil.
Well, what happened to your pencil that's been laying there?
I don't know. Carry on.
Okay. So you can get do you need the pencil now? I can go get you a pencil. I can edit this out.
Okay.
This vehicle's putting down the tar. This vehicle.
So while she's getting a pencil, I will tell you a little bit about the format we're going to use here. I'm going to let her tell a tip and then tell a little, a story or an example, something like that. And then I am going to do the same, and I think we've got 4 or 5 tips each, something like that. So, are you ready for travel tips?
Yes, but I would prefer you go first.
You would prefer me to go
So
first?
I want to see kind of what you want.
Okay. My first travel tip would be pertaining to international travel abroad. And my first travel tip is about passports. And luckily, we have not had a whole lot of issues. We both applied for a passport in 2020, and that was I had a trip planned in May of 2020. In January of 2020, we started working on the process. They were like, 6 weeks. COVID hit. We ended up getting them in July. My trip had been canceled anyway. But if you're planning to travel abroad, submit for your passport well before 6 to 8 weeks, just in case. Also, when you receive your passport, check them for accuracy immediately. I know of 2 different people who had issues. One of them, the address was wrong on their passport, and the other one, one of them, their name was spelled incorrectly. One of them caught it early enough that they were able to drive from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia to the passport office and get their passport fixed. The other one did not catch it until the night before they were leaving on an all-inclusive trip, and they ended up having to leave earlier, fly to Houston, Texas, because Atlanta was all booked up and could not get them in. They had to fly to Houston, Texas to get their passport fixed before they could go on their actual trip. And so that was a big headache. So when it comes to passports, do it early, check for accuracy, and that's my number 1 tip.
Well, that's kind of a tip within a tip because someone may not be prepared to go overseas or do international travel, and they need one quick so they can go to either Atlanta or Houston, you say?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So do not wait till the last minute if you know you're traveling.
Right.
But if it becomes an emergency, there you go. There's a tip.
Yep. Okay.
My first tip is probably has to do with one of our most recent traveling issues, and it's always have an emergency fund. If you're not going to have an emergency fund, just stay home, because your brand new car might tear up and you might spend 2 nights 7 hours away from home.
Yes.
And your friends and you will miss work, and they won't have enough clothes, so you have to go buy clothes.
Yes.
Have an emergency fund before you
Yes.
travel that you're
Yes.
not going to touch unless you need it.
Yes, that is a great one. Also, we had that happen twice this summer.
Twice this summer.
Twice this summer.
Yes.
Our first trip it was actually our second trip to Texas this year. June 1st, transmission went out in my truck on the way to Texas, and we ended up having to spend the night and get a rental car to finish out the trip.
And we had to go to Texas. We couldn't just cancel our Texas trip. We had
Right.
we had to keep going.
Right. And so, we had to pick up a rental car, and then I guess it was September, we went to North Carolina to pick up my gear, and we were about 2 hours away from my camping gear from my Yukon trip, and we were about 2 hours away, and Shannon's brand new car quit on us.
And why did Shannon have a brand new car?
Because the truck had already broken down on us.
And I had to have a way to get to work, and we wanted a vehicle that was warranted, so we wouldn't be stuck on the side of the interstate like we were in June. We were not stuck on the side, we were stuck in a great place.
Right.
But,
That great place cost a lot of money.
yeah, that we were not, we got through it. It was fine, but if we'd have had an emergency fund,
Yep.
it wouldn't have been so it would have been inconvenient, but not so inconvenient.
Right. All right. So my second tip pertains to flying, and that is we flew several times this year. We did not check a bag but one time, and that bag got lost. And so there was a whole deal with that bag. I had been to the Yukon and was flying home. If that bag had to go through customs, it had to be declared because it was carrying a self-defense against wildlife particle. What would that be?
I think article's fine.
Yeah, and it got lost. So in this case, I could not carry that item on the plane. I'll let you read between the lines. So I had to check a bag. But most of the time, unless we're going to be gone for a week or so with no availability to do our laundry, we will carry simply a carry-on bag and a backpack each. And that way we can carry those onto the plane with us and not check a bag. And then that way we don't have to worry with them getting lost because they're with us all the time.
Wait 2 minutes, right?
Yep.
So that's my second one. Anything to add to that?
I came back Thursday.
No, I wonder if people don't just
Saturday.
already know that, though.
Most people do, but some don't. Some might not.
Actually, I did start to put, make sure you're traveling on an airline that lets you carry on. That
7.
I've never traveled on an airline that didn't, but
Right.
I know some people who have.
Thursday.
So, who am I going to pick here? Which one? This has to do with flying.
And today is
take Dramamine. It's not just flying or just on the road. It's both. Brad needs Dramamine in the air. Shannon needs Dramamine on the ocean or on the ground. So Dramamine, never go anywhere without it. Don't leave home without it.
Yes.
You've been on the road 11 out of
You going to tell the story about why you needed Dramamine?
I nearly died.
Why?
Just a little bit of turbulence landing in Atlanta.
Just a
No, not Atlanta, in Denver in 2021.
You can insert a picture
Oh,
here
my gosh.
if you possibly could.
I was struggling. That was the worst. We have flown through the outer bands of a hurricane going from, down to Miami. And it wasn't that rough, was it?
No.
Oh, Lord, our cats are fighting. Anyway, it was not that rough. This was rough. And yes, I was wishing I had some
The thing
Dramamine.
is, I did not get remotely, not even a little sick. Not even a little. But the lady beside me and I were working really, really hard to keep you from expiring.
It was bad. It was so bad. It took me a little while to recuperate from that, too.
But the thing is, you don't get sick on the cruise ships.
Cruise ships don't bother me.
You get sick in boats when you go parasailing, but that's another story.
Yes, we'll move on from that one. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's my
It's
turn.
your turn, yes.
Okay. Let's see. I got to get back to my notes here. Okay. On our trip in 2021, we did something that I thought was really, really cool and really fun. And you don't have to necessarily pack one, but, you could always pick one up once you land there. But we packed a soft-sided cooler bag, like from Costco. And we packed it in our suitcase and carried it with us. And then we stopped at a store and picked up groceries to have picnics. And we had picnics for lunch every day while we were out there. And that was one of some of the best memories. That was just so much fun. We had a picnic out in the woods at the base of Devil's Tower. We had picnic one day at the looking across this huge, vast meadow, looking out at Mount Rushmore, and we just had everything in that bag, and then we would carry it in to our hotel at night and put the stuff in the refrigerator, and then when we'd start to leave in the morning, we'd load our bag back up and put it in the back seat of the car and take off, and that works great for two people. I'm not sure how that would work with multiple, more than two people, family and kids and all that stuff. But it was a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, this is more like a husband and wife, two people trip.
Yes.
Podcast, I would say. But I actually had that written down too. If you're going to road trip, do picnics, but not just because it's incredibly fun. And that's some of the most memorable parts of any road trips we've ever been on.
Yes.
We stopped and had a picnic on the way back from the Virginia Creeper with Jason Brett.
And Larry. And Larry.
And Larry. I remember that because the kids were playing Frisbee and they threw the Frisbee on top of the building, and next thing you know, the kids are on the building. So,
yes. And the
you have
security is
memories.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Be ready. Be ready for your picnic, because not only that, but on that road trip that we went on in 21, you weren't close to restaurants out there. So we had not thought about that.
Mm-mm.
That's not why we packed a picnic. We packed a picnic because we
thought
liked
it would be
picnic.
fun.
But it ended up we would have gotten very hungry had we not had our food.
Very, very hungry.
Of course, we
yes.
don't go on any road trips without snacks, and I guess this can be my next one.
Okay.
It's obvious, I guess, but always have drinks, especially ginger ale because motion sickness, and your snacks, your sweet, your savory, your sour,
Yep.
and your crunchy. And That way when you stop, you don't have to spend more money.
Yep, and our kids and our bonus kids and other kids that have traveled with us through the years, they talk about, you know, they all call Shannon Shan Mama, and they talk about her peanut butter cookies and lavash and sausage balls that we always carry on road trips, and that those will still get mentioned to me occasionally.
Hmm. That's our family road trip food.
Yep. My
That was
turn?
Yeah, your turn.
Okay. Anytime I rent a car, I do a video before and after walk around, interior and exterior. And the reason that I do that is because for Shannon and I, for our 20th anniversary, we went on a cruise to Cozumel, and the dock, and you know, they got the stores, I guess, and stuff that belongs to the cruise line, and you walk through them, and then you walk out into Cozumel. Well, we had gone and done some stuff, and we were coming back, and we were right outside the dock. I mean, right outside the dock. And I had told her when we walked by, I said, look at that. That Jeep is just $100 a day to rent. I said, we need to remember that next time. I don't want to do that this time, but we need to remember that next time. Well, when we come back after we went on a carriage ride and did a few other things, and as we were coming back, someone was returning that Jeep. And that lady was absolutely losing her mind because the rental company was refusing to give her her $500 deposit back because they said she had dented their Jeep. The dent had rust in it. It was not a fresh dent. And as we're walking by, a police officer happens to be walking by. And she yells at the police officer, you know, and he comes over and she's explaining, you know, and he just looks at her and shrugs his shoulder and says, well, it's your word against his. And I mean, it was obvious that this was an old dent. It was obvious it was an old dent. I mean, because it was rusty. I mean, there was rust in it. But they said, no, the Jeep wasn't dented when it left here, even though it was. But she did not get her $500 deposit back. Now, I've never rented a car from a dude standing on a corner in Cozumel, you know, but nonetheless, that taught me, hey, I'm going to walk around this car in case there's a dent or something like that. You know, if I cause damage to a car, I'll pay for it, you know, but I don't want to get stuck with, you know, paying for something that was already there. So I just do a quick little walk around, interior, you know, and
I believe you've even put it in a video.
I have. Mm-hmm.
How many more are we going to do? Because I have the one I'm going to save for last.
Well, I've got one more after this.
I've got several, but don't assume anything out west, Nebraska especially, when all you could see were hills and roads. If the GPS had gone out, we would have been in trouble. I always have a paper map.
Yes. The one good thing about that particular trip was there was nowhere to turn off that road. I mean, we just stayed on that particular road for hours. It was unreal.
We became so accustomed to always having the internet, and
Out there,
it's
no.
very likely that, you know, something could, it's very, very likely. So I always have a paper map.
Okay. All right, I have one more, and then I think she should come back with one more. But this one is pretty simple, and it's pretty, most people know this. But the little battery packs to charge your phones, those things are about $5. And even if you're going to be in an airport or somewhere like that, if you're traveling, make sure yours is fully charged and ready to go, and have your phone cable to plug it in. That way you're ready to charge your phones, because I have learned, we have as a society, and I'm number one at this, I have become so reliant on my phone. It's crazy. So make sure you have a way to charge it other than plugging it into the wall.
I have some other ones, but I'll just stick with my last one. Plan your trip, plan it, but be open to last minute adventures, because that's where, your stories come from,
Yes.
whether it's a good adventure or a bad adventure. So plan it,
Yes.
but be open.
Yes. Be open-minded to, take on some other adventures.
Get off the beaten path. I tried to think of some examples with this, but I think we just live it so much that it's just normal for us. We're like, why don't we go here? Okay, let's go here.
I guess just the first one that pops into my mind is our road trip coming back from Texas in June, and we were just rolling into Oklahoma City, and I said, just Google and see if there's something about rural farms or urban farms. And she was like, oh yeah, here's something. And we just went there, just on a whim. And that was one of the most interesting agricultural, I'm an ag teacher, for those of you that don't know. And so a lot of times we incorporate ag tours into our trips. Just that gives me something from every trip to bring back to my students, and that's very important to me. So we did this. It really wasn't a tour. We just kind of showed up and said, "Hey, can you show us around?" And they did, and it was really cool. It was a good trip.
We had never seen an urban farm. We take it for granted.
There will be a video, by the way. I found the video footage and all for it. There will be a video coming eventually.
Yeah, it was way more interesting than I was even expecting.
Yep.
Kudos to those folks.
Yep. All right.
I have a few more, but
Well, we've already gone our 20 minutes.
yeah,
So
I agree.
okay. Well, guys, I believe this will be episode 10, and we thank you for joining us. And we're going first of all, let me say this. We're going to take a quick break because we're going to change out some microphones here, and I wanted to see which microphones actually sound better. And so you guys, Shannon's sitting there telling me something, and she's going, and I can't understand what she's saying.
I'm saying you don't have to tell them what you're doing.
I want their opinions.
Okay.
So we're going to try another microphone setup here, and I would like for you guys to tell me in the comments which one you like best. Okay? So between episode 10 and episode 11, we're going to be changing some microphones. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, stay tuned. We're coming back with camping tips. All right.
Let's go camping.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in for this episode of Pine Thicket Philosophies. Tune in next time as we continue to live by our motto, even bad adventures make great stories.